The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace grounds as Prince William stood at his bedroom window, staring at the gardens below. His hands trembled slightly as he held the official document that would change everything. The letter bore the royal seal, and its contents were clear. He would be leaving for a 6-month military deployment to a remote base where communication would be limited and visits impossible. Kate Middleton was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast for two. She had no idea that upstairs her husband was struggling with news that would break both their hearts. They had been married for 12 years and never once had they been apart for more than a few weeks. The thought of 6 months without seeing her smile, hearing her laugh, or holding her hand felt impossible to bear. William walked downstairs slowly, the letter hidden in his jacket pocket. Kate turned around with a bright smile, her eyes sparkling in the morning light. She had flour on her cheek from making his favorite pancakes, and William felt his heart break a little more. How could he tell her that duty was about to tear them apart? "Good morning, my love," Kate said, reaching up to kiss his cheek. She noticed immediately that something was wrong. His usual warm smile was missing, and there were worry lines around his eyes that hadn't been there the night before. "William, what's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." He pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. For a moment, he considered hiding the truth, pretending everything was normal for just one more day. But their relationship had always been built on honesty, even when the truth was painful. Kate deserved to know what was coming. "We need to talk," he said quietly, leading her to their favorite spot by the window where they often shared morning coffee. The sunlight streaming through made her auburn hair glow like fire, and William memorized every detail of her face, knowing he would need these memories in the lonely months ahead. Kate sat down, her hands instinctively reaching for his. She could see the pain in his eyes and knew that whatever he was about to tell her would change their world. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," she whispered, squeezing his fingers gently. William pulled out the letter with shaking hands. "I've been called for deployment," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. 6 months. No visits, limited communication. I leave in 3 days. The color drained from Kate's face as the words sank in. 6 months might as well have been 6 years. They had never been apart for more than a few weeks, and the thought of sleeping in their bed alone, of eating meals by herself, of facing royal duties without his steady presence beside her, felt overwhelming. 3 days? She repeated, her voice cracking. But we had plans. The charity gala next month, George's school play, Charlotte's birthday party. How can they ask you to leave now? William's heart shattered as he watched tears fill her eyes. He pulled her into his arms, feeling her body shake against his chest. "I know, my darling. I know it's not fair, but it's my duty. The country needs me." Kate pulled back to look at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "And what about what I need? What about what our children need? Don't we matter too?" The pain in her voice cut through him like a knife. Of course they mattered. They were his entire world. But being born into royalty meant that sometimes personal happiness had to come second to serving the crown and country. "You matter more than anything," he said, wiping her tears with his thumbs. "That's what makes this so impossible. I can't bear the thought of being away from you for even a day, let alone 6 months." They held each other in silence, both trying to process this unexpected blow to their carefully planned life. Outside, birds sang in the garden and life continued as normal. But inside their small bubble of despair, time seemed to stand still. Kate was the first to speak, her voice stronger now despite the tears still falling. "Then we'll make these 3 days count. We'll create enough memories to last 6 months. We'll take pictures, make videos, write letters for each other to read when we're apart." William marveled at her strength, even in the face of heartbreak. This was why he had fallen in love with her all those years ago. Her ability to find hope in the darkest moments, to turn pain into purpose. "How did I get so lucky?" he whispered against her hair. "How did I find someone who could love me enough to let me go when duty calls?" "Because that's what love is," Kate replied, though her voice shook with emotion. "It's supporting each other's dreams and responsibilities, even when it breaks your heart." They spent the rest of the morning planning how to spend their last 3 days together, but underneath their practical conversations, both were already grieving for the time they were about to lose. The next morning arrived too quickly, bringing them one day closer to their goodbye. William woke before dawn, unable to sleep, and found Kate already awake beside him, staring at the ceiling with red-rimmed eyes. Neither had slept well, their minds racing with thoughts of the approaching separation. "I have an idea," Kate whispered in the darkness. "Let's spend today doing all our favorite things together. Just the two of us, no royal duties, no schedule. Just William and Kate." They slipped out of the palace before anyone else was awake, like teenagers escaping for an adventure. William drove them to the small cafe where they had shared their first official date years ago. The elderly owner recognized them immediately but respected their need for privacy, seating them at a corner table away from the windows. Kate ordered the same strawberry scone she had eaten on their first date, while William chose the coffee he had been too nervous to finish back then. They laughed about how different they were now, how much more comfortable in their own skin, yet how the butterflies still appeared when they looked into each other's eyes. "Do you remember what you said to me that day?" Kate asked, breaking off a piece of her scone. "You said you hoped I wouldn't run away when I realized how complicated your life was." William smiled sadly. "And you said you weren't the running type. You proved that right, didn't you? Even now, when most people would be angry or resentful, you're here supporting me." "Where else would I be?" Kate reached across the table to touch his hand. "This is just another challenge we'll face together, even if we have to face it from different continents." After breakfast, they drove to the beach where William had proposed. The coastline was empty except for a few early morning joggers, and they walked hand in hand along the water's edge. The waves crashed against the shore with a rhythm that seemed to match their heartbeats, and seagulls called overhead in the crisp morning air. William stopped walking and pulled Kate into his arms. "When I'm gone, I want you to come here sometimes. Stand right in this spot and remember that I'm thinking of you every single day." Kate nodded, memorizing the feel of his arms around her, the sound of the waves, the smell of salt air mixed with his cologne. "I'll bring the children here too. We'll build sandcastles and collect shells, and I'll tell them stories about their brave father who's serving his country." They spent hours on the beach, talking about everything and nothing. William told Kate about his fears for the deployment, how he worried about missing important moments in their children's lives. Kate shared her concerns about handling royal duties alone, about the loneliness she knew was coming. "I'm scared I'll forget the sound of your voice," she admitted as they sat on a piece of driftwood, watching the sun climb higher in the sky. "Never," William said firmly. "I'll call whenever I can, even if it's just for a few minutes. And I'll record myself reading bedtime stories for the children. My voice will always be with you." As the afternoon grew late, they reluctantly headed back to the palace. The children would be home from school soon, and they had agreed to tell them about the deployment together. It would be another difficult conversation, but they knew George, Charlotte, and Louis deserved to hear the news from their parents. The children took the news better than expected, though William could see the confusion and sadness in their young faces. George, the eldest, tried to be brave like his father, while Charlotte clung to William's arm. Little Louis didn't fully understand, but sensed the sadness in the room. "Will you bring me back a present?" Charlotte asked, her bottom lip trembling. "The best present I can bring you is coming home safely," William replied, lifting her onto his lap. "But yes, I'll find something special for each of you." That evening, the family had a quiet dinner together, with extra helpings of everyone's favorite foods. Kate had cooked William's preferred meal, and the children chattered about school and friends, trying to keep the mood light. But underneath the normalcy, everyone felt the weight of the approaching goodbye. After the children were in bed, William and Kate sat in their study, going through practical matters. Kate would take on additional royal duties in his absence, with support from other family members. They arranged for extra security and discussed how to handle the media attention that would surely follow the deployment news. "You'll be incredible," William said, watching Kate make notes in her careful handwriting. "You always are. The country is lucky to have you representing them while I'm away." "I don't feel incredible," Kate admitted. "I feel terrified. What if something happens to you? What if the children need their father and you're not here?" William set down his papers and moved to kneel beside her chair. "Hey, look at me. Nothing is going to happen to me. I promise you I will come home. I have too much to live for to take any unnecessary risks." Kate cupped his face in her hands, studying every line and feature as if seeing him for the first time. "I love you so much it physically hurts sometimes. The thought of anything happening to you." "I know," he whispered, covering her hands with his. "I feel the same way. But we're going to get through this. We're stronger together. even when we're apart." They held each other late into the night, neither wanting to waste precious time sleeping. Tomorrow would be their last full day together, and both were desperate to make every moment count. Their final full day together dawned gray and drizzly, as if the weather itself understood the sadness hanging over the palace. William woke to find Kate's side of the bed empty, but he could hear soft music coming from downstairs. He found her in the kitchen, moving slowly as she prepared an elaborate breakfast spread. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind as she flipped pancakes at the stove. "I wanted to," Kate replied, leaning back against his chest. "I want you to remember this morning. Remember the smell of fresh coffee and pancakes. Remember feeling loved and cared for." They ate breakfast slowly, savoring each bite and each moment. The children joined them, and the family lingered at the table longer than usual. William helped Louis cut his pancakes while Kate braided Charlotte's hair for school. These ordinary moments felt precious now, knowing they wouldn't happen again for months. After the children left for school, William and Kate spent the morning in their private garden. They had always found peace there together, and today they worked side by side planting new roses that would bloom while William was away. "Every time I see these flowers, I'll think of today," Kate said, patting soil around a pale pink rosebush. "I'll think of your hands in the dirt next to mine, of how quiet and peaceful this moment is." William watched her gentle movements, the way she cared for each plant as if it were precious. This was the Kate he had fallen in love with, nurturing, thoughtful, finding beauty in simple things. He knew he would carry this image with him through the difficult months ahead. In the afternoon, they visited William's grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, to say goodbye. The elderly monarch had lived through many wartime separations and understood the pain they were feeling. She held Kate's hands in her own weathered ones and promised to keep a special eye on the family while William was away. "Young love tested by duty often emerges stronger," the Queen said privately to William. "Your grandfather and I survived many separations during the war. It's not easy, but it can deepen your appreciation for what you have." William found comfort in his grandmother's words, knowing she spoke from experience. The royal family had always understood that service sometimes required personal sacrifice, but that didn't make it any easier to bear. That evening, the family had one last dinner together. Kate had cooked all of William's favorite foods, and the table was set with their best china. The children were unusually well behaved, seeming to sense the importance of the occasion. "Daddy, will you still be my daddy when you come back?" little Louis asked, his eyes wide with concern. "Always," William assured him, pulling his youngest son onto his lap. "Distance can't change love. I'll be your daddy forever, no matter where I am in the world." After dinner, they had a family movie night, all piled together on the sofa watching a silly comedy that made the children giggle. But William and Kate barely watched the screen. Instead, they memorized the sound of their children's laughter, the warmth of little bodies snuggled against them, the feeling of being a complete family. When bedtime came, William read extra long stories to each child. He recorded himself reading several of their favorite books, so Kate could play his voice for them while he was away. Charlotte fell asleep holding his hand, and William sat beside her bed for a long time, watching her peaceful face in the dim nightlight. "She looks just like you when she sleeps," Kate whispered from the doorway. "But she has your strength," William replied, gently extracting his hand from Charlotte's grip. "They all do. That's how I know they'll be okay while I'm gone." The children finally settled. William and Kate retreated to their bedroom for their last night together. They had packed his military gear earlier, and the bags sat by the door like unwelcome reminders of morning's arrival. "I have something for you," Kate said, pulling a small wrapped package from her dresser drawer. "Don't open it now. Save it for when you're feeling really lonely." William held the package carefully, knowing it contained something meaningful. "And I have something for you too." He handed her a leather journal with her initials embossed on the cover. "I want you to write in this every day. Tell me about the children, about your day, about what you're thinking and feeling. When I come back, I'll read every word." They lay in bed talking until the early hours of morning, sharing memories from their courtship and early marriage. They talked about their dreams for the future, about the trips they would take when William returned, about growing old together. "Promise me something," Kate whispered as dawn began to lighten the sky outside their window. "Anything. Promise me you'll take care of yourself. Eat properly, get enough sleep, don't take unnecessary risks. I need you to come home to me exactly as you are right now. I promise, William said solemnly. And you promise me you won't try to do everything alone. Accept help when it's offered. Take care of yourself too. I promise. They sealed their promises with a kiss that tasted of tears and hope and desperate love. Outside, birds began their morning songs, signaling that their time together was almost over. In just a few hours, William would have to leave and their real test would begin. The morning of departure arrived with cruel efficiency. William's alarm sounded at 5 a.m., though neither he nor Kate had really slept. They had dozed fitfully, holding each other close, as if their embrace could somehow stop time from moving forward. Kate had laid out William's uniform the night before, pressed and perfect, but now it hung on the closet door like a symbol of everything that was about to tear them apart. William dressed slowly, each piece of clothing feeling heavier than usual. Kate sat on the edge of the bed, still in her nightgown, watching him transform from her husband into a soldier. You look so handsome, she said softly, though her voice broke on the last word, and so far away already. William sat beside her and took her hands. I'm still me underneath all this, still the man who can't function without your morning kiss, who steals bites of your dessert, who watches you sleep sometimes just because you're beautiful. They went downstairs together to wake the children. George was trying to be brave, helping his younger siblings get dressed and eat breakfast. Charlotte kept climbing onto William's lap, as if she could keep him there through sheer determination. Louis didn't fully understand what was happening, but sensed the sadness and clung to both his parents. The family ate breakfast in relative quiet, the usual morning chatter replaced by the weight of goodbye. William tried to memorize every detail, the way Charlotte hummed while she ate her cereal, how George carefully cut his toast into perfect squares, the sound of Louis giggling at his own silly faces. Take care of Mummy for me, William told George privately while the others were distracted. You're the man of the house now, but that doesn't mean you have to carry everything alone. Help each other. George nodded solemnly, trying to live up to the responsibility his father was placing on his young shoulders. I'll protect them, Daddy, I promise. At 8 a.m. sharp, the official car arrived. William's military escort waited respectfully outside while the family said their private goodbyes. The palace staff had gathered in the hallway, many of them wiping away tears as they watched their beloved prince prepare to leave. The children hugged William tightly, each taking their turn. Charlotte whispered secrets in his ear that only they would know, while Louis planted wet kisses all over his father's face. George shook hands like a gentleman, then broke down and threw his arms around William's neck. Be brave, all of you, William told them. Write me letters, send me pictures, tell me about school and friends. I want to know everything that happens while I'm away. Kate walked with William to the front door, their fingers intertwined. The morning air was crisp and clear, a beautiful day that seemed to mock their sorrow. The car waited with its engine running and William's bags had already been loaded. This is it, he said, turning to face her one last time. Kate looked beautiful despite her tears, dressed in the blue dress William loved because it brought out her eyes. Her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and she wore the necklace he had given her for their anniversary. He wanted to remember her exactly like this. I love you, she whispered, reaching up to straighten his collar one final time. I love you so much that I'm letting you go even though it's killing me. And I love you enough to come back, William replied, cupping her face in his hands. No matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, I will come back to you. They kissed then, slowly and deeply, pouring all their love and longing into that one perfect moment. Around them the world continued, birds sang, traffic moved on distant streets, life went on. But for William and Kate, nothing existed except each other. When they finally broke apart, both were crying openly. William rested his forehead against Kate's, breathing in her familiar scent one last time. 6 months, he said. 6 months, she agreed. We can do anything for 6 months. William picked up his remaining bag and walked toward the car. Halfway there, he turned back to look at Kate standing in the doorway. The children gathered around her like flowers seeking sunlight. The image burned itself into his memory, his family, his home, his heart standing behind him while duty pulled him forward. I'll call as soon as I can, he called out. We'll be here. Kate called back, her voice strong despite her tears. We'll always be here. William got into the car without looking back again, knowing that seeing Kate one more time might break his resolve entirely. As the car pulled away from the palace, he watched his home grow smaller in the rear window until it disappeared entirely. Kate stood in the doorway long after the car was gone. The children pressed against her sides. Palace staff moved quietly around them, giving the family space to grieve this first separation. When Kate finally turned to go inside, her face was streaked with tears but set with determination. The real test was just beginning. 6 months stretched ahead like an eternity, but Kate knew she had to be strong. For the children, for William, and for herself, she would count down every single day until he came home, and she would make sure that when he returned, he would find his family even stronger than when he left. In the car speeding toward the airport, William stared out the window at the countryside rolling past. His phone buzzed with a text from Kate. "Already missing you. Already counting days until you come home. Love you forever," he typed back. "Love you too. This isn't goodbye, it's just see you later." But as the plane lifted off hours later, carrying him away from everything he loved, William couldn't shake the feeling that these would be the longest 6 months of his life. 3 months into the deployment, the separation had settled into a painful routine for both William and Kate. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a deep, constant ache that colored every moment of their days. Kate had thrown herself into royal duties and caring for the children, while William focused on his military responsibilities, but neither could escape the loneliness that followed them everywhere. Kate's days began before dawn, when she would sit in their empty bedroom with a cup of tea and write in the journal William had given her. She told him about Charlotte's lost tooth, about George's excellent marks in mathematics, about Louis learning to ride his bicycle without training wheels. She wrote about the loneliness too, about how she reached for him in the night and found only empty space. The children had adapted better than expected, but Kate could see the strain in their eyes. Charlotte had started having nightmares and would crawl into Kate's bed in the middle of the night, asking when Daddy was coming home. George tried to be the man of the house, but sometimes broke down crying when he thought no one was looking. Louis asked about William constantly, carrying around a photo of his father and kissing it goodnight. "Mummy looks sad," Charlotte observed one morning over breakfast. "Is it because Daddy's away?" Kate forced a smile, not wanting her children to carry the burden of her grief. "I miss Daddy very much, just like you do. But I'm also proud of him for doing important work. We can be sad and proud at the same time." Phone calls with William were rare and precious, scheduled around his military duties and the time difference. When they did connect, they tried to pack everything into a few short minutes. Updates about the children, Kate's royal engagements, William's training exercises. They never had enough time to really talk, to share their fears and loneliness, to simply be together in words if not in person. "You sound tired," William said during one late-night call, his voice crackling through the poor connection. "I am tired," Kate admitted, sitting alone in their study at midnight, the palace quiet around her, but not just physically. "I'm tired in my soul, William. I miss you so much it feels like a part of me is missing." "I know, my love. I feel the same way. Some days I wonder how I'm going to make it 3 more months. The conversation was cut short by static, leaving Kate staring at her phone and feeling more alone than ever. She had started talking to William's photograph on her bedside table, telling him about her day as if he were really there listening. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, William was struggling with his own demons. The military base was harsh and unforgiving, with little comfort and even less privacy. He shared quarters with 3 other men, and hadn't had a moment alone to properly grieve the separation from his family. His fellow soldiers knew who he was, but treated him no differently than anyone else, which William appreciated. Here he was just another serviceman missing his family, not a prince with royal obligations. The work was demanding and dangerous, requiring his full attention, but in quiet moments, his thoughts always returned to home. William kept Kate's photo in his pocket, along with drawings the children had made for him. He had memorized every line of their faces, but the images were becoming harder to recall with perfect clarity. The fear of forgetting details about his family haunted his nights. One evening, during a rare moment of quiet, William sat outside his quarters and opened the package Kate had given him before he left. Inside was a small recorder with dozens of voice messages, Kate reading him poetry, the children singing songs, all of them saying "I love you" in various ways. There was also a letter in Kate's careful handwriting. "My dearest William," it began, "if you're reading this, it means you're having a particularly difficult day. I want you to know that every morning when I wake up, my first thought is of you. Every night when I go to sleep, my last thought is of you. You are woven into every moment of my day, even when you're not here. The children ask about you constantly. Not because they're worried, but because you're such an important part of their world that they can't imagine it without you. We are all so proud of what you're doing, even though we miss you terribly. You are the bravest man I know, and I love you more than words can express. Come home to us safely. We'll be here waiting." William cried for the first time since leaving home, finally allowing himself to feel the full weight of the separation. The other soldiers respectfully ignored his tears, understanding that every man had moments when the distance from home became unbearable. Back at the palace, Kate was having her own moment of breakdown. She had maintained her composure through official engagements, family dinners, and bedtime routines. But late at night, alone in their bedroom, she finally let herself fall apart. She held William's pillow against her chest, breathing in the faint scent of his cologne that still lingered on the fabric. The bed felt enormous without him, cold and empty despite the electric blanket she used to warm his side out of habit. "I don't know how to do this anymore," she whispered to his photograph. "I'm trying to be strong for the children, for the country, for you, but I'm so tired of pretending I'm okay. I need you here. I need your hand in mine, your voice telling me everything will be all right." The worst part was the uncertainty. Military deployments could be extended, communication could be cut off entirely, and the dangerous nature of William's mission meant that every day brought new worries. Kate found herself checking the news obsessively, searching for any mention of incidents in William's region. "Mummy, are you crying?" Charlotte appeared in the doorway, her small face concerned. Kate quickly wiped her eyes and opened her arms to her daughter. "Just missing Daddy extra much tonight, sweetheart. Do you want to snuggle with me?" Charlotte climbed into the big bed and curled up against Kate's side. "I miss him too, but George says that when you miss someone, it means you love them really, really much." "George is very wise," Kate said, stroking Charlotte's hair. "And yes, we love Daddy really, really much." As Charlotte fell asleep beside her, Kate stared at the ceiling and tried to calculate exactly how many more nights she would have to endure before William came home. The number felt impossibly large, but she reminded herself that each passing day brought them one step closer to being a complete family again. 3 months down, 3 to go. Somehow she would find the strength to make it through. 5 months into the deployment, everything changed in a single devastating phone call. Kate was reviewing her schedule for the following week when her private secretary appeared in the doorway, his face pale and drawn. Behind him stood a military official she didn't recognize, wearing the kind of expression that made her blood run cold. "Your Royal Highness," the official said carefully, "we need to speak with you about Prince William." Kate's legs nearly gave out beneath her. She gripped the edge of her desk, her mind immediately jumping to the worst possible scenario. Is he hurt? Is he alive? "He's alive," the official assured her quickly. "But there's been an incident at his base. He was injured during a training exercise that went wrong. He's in the medical facility now, stable but unconscious." The words hit Kate like physical blows. Injured, unconscious, stable but unconscious could mean anything. Head injury, internal bleeding, damage they couldn't see or understand. Her carefully constructed composure, built up over months of lonely nights and brave faces, crumbled completely. "How badly injured?" she managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper. "We don't have complete details yet. The medical team is still assessing his condition. What we can tell you is that he sustained a significant head injury and some internal injuries when equipment malfunctioned during a routine exercise." Kate sank into her chair, her hands shaking uncontrollably. 5 months of missing him, of counting down days until his return, and now this. The fear she had pushed down every single day was suddenly real and immediate. "I need to go to him," she said, standing up abruptly. "I need to be there. The children need to see their father." The military official exchanged glances with her secretary. "Ma'am, the base is in a remote location with limited access. We're working on arrangements, but it will take time to organize secure transport to such a sensitive area." "I don't care about security protocols," Kate said, her voice stronger now, fueled by desperation and determination. My husband is unconscious in a hospital bed thousands of miles away. I should be there holding his hand, not sitting here talking about logistics. Over the next 18 hours, Kate experienced the longest wait of her life. Military officials and royal advisors worked frantically to arrange emergency transport to William's location, while doctors provided updates that were frustratingly vague. He remained unconscious but stable. His vital signs were improving. The head injury was serious but not life-threatening. Kate tried to maintain normalcy for the children, but George, now almost a teenager, could see through her forced smiles. "Something's wrong with Dad, isn't it?" he said quietly when she tucked him into bed. "He's been hurt," Kate admitted, deciding that honesty was better than lies he would see through anyway. "But the doctors say he's going to be okay. I'm going to fly out to be with him for a few days. Can we come too?" Charlotte asked from her own bed across the room. "Not this time, sweetheart. But as soon as Daddy is feeling better, I'll bring him home to you." The flight to William's base took 12 hours, during which Kate barely slept or ate. She stared out the window at clouds and ocean, praying to anyone who might be listening that William would wake up before she arrived. The gift he had given her before leaving, the promise that he would come home safely, seemed fragile now. When she finally arrived at the military medical facility, Kate was shocked by how small and basic it was. This was where the man she loved was fighting for his recovery, in a sparse hospital room thousands of miles from proper medical facilities. The doctor who met her was kind but direct. "He's stable, but he hasn't regained consciousness yet. The head injury caused some swelling, which we're monitoring closely. His other injuries are healing well, but head trauma can be unpredictable." Kate barely heard the medical details. All that mattered was getting to William's room, seeing him with her own eyes, touching his hand and assuring herself that he was really alive. When she entered his room, her heart broke all over again. William lay motionless in the narrow hospital bed, connected to various monitors and machines. His face was bruised and bandaged, and he looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way she had never seen him. "William," she whispered, taking his hand in both of hers. "I'm here, my love. I'm right here." For the first time in 5 months, Kate was touching her husband, but not in any way she had imagined during all those lonely nights. His hand was warm but limp, his wedding ring still on his finger, but his eyes closed to the world. She pulled a chair close to his bedside and began talking to him, telling him about the children, about how Charlotte had lost another tooth, about George's upcoming school play, about Louis learning to spell his own name. She talked until her voice was hoarse, hoping that somewhere in his unconscious state, William could hear her voice and know he wasn't alone. "The doctors say you're going to be fine," she told him, stroking his hand gently. "But you need to wake up, William. I need to see your eyes open. I need to hear your voice. The children need their father to come home." Kate stayed by his bedside for 3 days, leaving only to eat and rest for a few hours in the small room they had provided for her. She read to him from books she had brought, played recordings of the children's voices, and talked to him constantly about anything and everything. On the 3rd day, as Kate was telling William about Charlotte's latest drawing, she felt his fingers move slightly in her hand. She looked up quickly, hardly daring to hope, and saw his eyelids flutter. "William?" she whispered urgently. "Can you hear me?" His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then gradually finding her face. When recognition dawned in his expression, Kate started crying with relief. "Kate?" His voice was rough and weak, but it was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. "I'm here," she said, leaning down to kiss his forehead gently. "I'm right here, and you're going to be okay." "How long?" he asked, struggling to focus. 3 days since I arrived. You've been unconscious for 5 days total." William tried to sit up but winced in pain. "The children? They're fine. They're home with your father, waiting for both of us to come back. They drew you pictures and recorded messages. They love you so much, William." As William's memory gradually returned and his strength improved over the following days, Kate realized that this crisis had changed something fundamental between them. The accident had stripped away all pretense, all the careful composure they had maintained during the separation. They had faced the possibility of losing each other forever, and it had made their love feel both more precious and more fragile. "I thought I might never see you again," William admitted during one of their quiet conversations. "I thought about all the things I never got to say, all the moments we would miss." "But you're here," Kate replied, holding his hand tightly. You're alive and you're getting better, and we're going to have all those moments. We're going to have a lifetime of them. The accident had shortened William's deployment. He would be coming home early, but not in the way any of them had hoped. As Kate helped him prepare for the journey back to England, she reflected on how much they had both changed during these difficult months apart. They had learned that love could survive separation, but they had also learned how precious their time together really was. 2 weeks later, the royal plane touched down at London Airport on a grey morning that felt like the most beautiful day in the world to Kate. William was finally coming home, not as the triumphant soldier they had imagined, but as a wounded man who needed time to heal. Kate didn't care about the circumstances. All that mattered was that he was alive and in her arms again. The children had been waiting at the palace since dawn, too excited to eat breakfast or focus on anything except their father's return. Charlotte had changed her dress 3 times, wanting to look perfect for Daddy. George had combed his hair with extra care, while Louis clutched the drawing he had made showing their family together again. "Is Daddy really coming home today?" Louis asked for the 100th time, pressing his face against the window to watch for cars. "Yes, sweetheart," Kate assured him, though she was watching the road just as anxiously. "Any minute now." When the royal car finally pulled through the palace gates, Kate's heart nearly burst with joy and relief. She had seen William every day for the past 2 weeks as he recovered, but bringing him home felt like the final step in a journey that had tested every part of their relationship. William emerged from the car slowly, still healing from his injuries but walking on his own. He wore civilian clothes instead of his military uniform, and though he looked thinner and bore the marks of his accident, his smile was radiant as he saw his family waiting for him. The children reached him first, launching themselves into his arms with cries of "Daddy!" William winced slightly from the impact but held them tightly, tears streaming down his face as he breathed in their familiar scent and felt their solid warmth against him. "I missed you so much," he whispered into Charlotte's hair while George clung to his side and Louis wrapped himself around William's legs. "Every single day I missed you." Kate hung back for a moment, letting the children have their reunion, but William's eyes found hers over their heads. In that look she saw everything: gratitude for her strength during his absence, love that had only grown deeper through separation, and relief that they had survived the test that had been thrown at them. "Come here," he said softly, opening one arm to include her in the family embrace. Kate melted into the circle of her family, and for the first time in months, she felt complete. William's arms around her felt like coming home after a long journey, like finding safety after being lost. "Don't ever leave us again," Charlotte demanded, her small face serious as she looked up at her father. "I'm not planning on it," William replied, ruffling her hair. "I learned that home is much more important than anything else in the world." The family spent the rest of the day reconnecting in small, precious ways. William read bedtime stories with voices he had almost forgotten how to do, making the children giggle with delight. Kate cooked his favorite meal, and they ate together at the kitchen table like an ordinary family, talking and laughing and savoring the simple pleasure of being together. That evening, after the children were asleep, William and Kate finally had time alone together. They sat in their bedroom, the room Kate had spent so many lonely nights in, and simply looked at each other, hardly believing this moment was real. "How did you do it?" William asked, taking her hands in his. "How did you stay so strong for so long?" "I wasn't strong," Kate admitted. "I cried myself to sleep more nights than I care to count. I talked to your photograph like you were really there. I counted days obsessively and wrote in that journal every single morning because it felt like talking to you. I want to read every word," William said. "I want to know what I missed, how you felt, what the children did. I want to know everything." Kate pulled out the leather journal, now filled completely with months of thoughts and feelings and daily life. "It's all here. Every day we were apart. Every moment I wished you were with us." William opened to a random page and read Kate's careful handwriting. Day 47. "Charlotte asked me today if Daddy still loves us since he's been gone so long. I told her that love doesn't disappear with distance, that Daddy carries us in his heart wherever he goes. I hope I'm right. I hope you can feel how much we love you even from so far away." "You were right," William said, his voice thick with emotion. "I felt it every day. It's what kept me going when everything else seemed impossible." They stayed up late into the night talking about everything they had experienced during their separation. William told Kate about the loneliness, the fear, the way her voice recordings had become his lifeline. Kate shared her own struggles, the weight of carrying the family alone, the terror she had felt when news of his accident arrived. "I realized something while you were away," Kate said as they finally prepared for bed. "I realized that our love isn't just about the happy moments, the easy times when everything goes according to plan. It's about choosing each other even when it's hard, even when duty pulls us in different directions." "We passed the test," William agreed, pulling her close in the bed they had shared for so many years. "We proved that our love is stronger than distance, stronger than time apart, stronger than fear." As they lay in each other's arms that first night, both marveled at how different this felt from all their previous reunions after shorter separations. This wasn't just about missing each other. It was about having survived something that could have broken them and finding themselves stronger on the other side. "Promise me something," Kate whispered in the darkness. "Anything. Promise me we'll never take this for granted again. This feeling of being together, of being a complete family. Promise me we'll remember how precious it is." "I promise," William said solemnly. "I will never forget how it felt to be away from you, and I will never stop being grateful for what we have." Outside their window, dawn was breaking over London, but inside their bedroom, William and Kate held each other close and knew that they had weathered the storm. Their love had been tested by separation, fear, and circumstances beyond their control, but it had emerged not just intact but deeper and stronger than before. The deployment was over. The long goodbye had finally become a joyful hello, and their family was whole again, bound together by a love that had proven it could survive anything the world might throw at them. 6 months had felt like a lifetime, but now it was just a chapter in their story, a difficult chapter that had taught them the true value of what they shared. As William drifted off to sleep with Kate in his arms and his children safe down the hall, he knew that he was exactly where he belonged and where he would always choose to be.